Welcome to our AIF-C01 AWS Certified AI Practitioner Exam Guide Explainer. So if you're gearing up for this certification, you probably already know that AWS expects you to master a pretty wide range of topics. We're talking high-level AI concepts right down to the nitty-gritty details of their machine learning ecosystem. Let's just dive right in. Ask yourself right now, are you really ready to conquer this exam? Because success here, it means successfully bridging the gap between broad, foundational AI theory and those highly specific, purpose-built AWS services. We're going to break it all down for you, focusing strictly on exactly what you need to know for exam day. Here's our roadmap. We'll hit AI and ML fundamentals, the machine learning lifecycle, key AWS AI services, foundation models in Gen AI, responsible AI, and finally, security and compliance. Section 1, AI and ML Fundamentals. Now, exam questions absolutely love testing these strict boundaries of these core domains, so keep this hierarchy locked in your mind. AI is the big, broad umbrella, which can actually include rule-based systems with zero learning component at all. Then, sitting inside that umbrella, we have machine learning, which relies on data to learn patterns and make decisions. Drill down further and you hit deep learning, an ML subset using multi-layered neural networks that need massive amounts of data. And finally, generative AI. This is a highly specialized branch focused entirely on creating completely new content, like images, text, or music, based on the patterns it's learned. To really grasp how these models learn, you've got to understand foundational units, like the token. Basically, a token is how AI physically breaks down and processes diverse data formats. Think of it like this. If you're feeding text to a model, the tokens represent words, characters, or even punctuation. For an image, tokens represent segments or pixels. And for audio, there's sound snippets. This basic data unit is literally what enables AI to process, interpret, and learn from totally different data types. Section 2, the machine learning lifecycle. You know, the progression of a machine learning pipeline on AWS flows in a really structured way. It always starts by identifying the business goal, figuring out the overarching problem and its real-world value. Then you frame that into a specific ML problem with clear objectives. From there, you step into data processing to collect and engineer your features, followed immediately by model development to actually train and tune your algorithms. And finally, the whole thing culminates in deployment, where your model goes live in a target environment to start making real predictions. When we map those lifecycle phases directly onto the AWS architecture, Amazon SageMaker Pipelines anchors the workflow perfectly. During the data preparation phase, you've got tools like SageMaker Data Wrangler and SageMaker Feature Store prepping and curating the data before a single model is even trained. That flow then moves seamlessly right into the train and tune phase and eventually out into deploy and manage. Having a clear mental picture of this pipeline, it's going to be an absolute lifesaver on exam day. Section 3, Key AWS AI Services. Grouping these services logically into vision, text, and speech buckets is a fantastic trick to memorize them faster for those tricky multiple-choice scenarios. So for vision, Amazon Recognition is your absolute go-to for detecting objects, faces, and scenes in images and video. Under text and language, Amazon Comprehend analyzes text for sentiment and key phrases, while Amazon Lex is your builder for conversational interfaces and chatbots. For speech, think of it as a two-way street. Amazon Poly converts text into natural-sounding speech, and Amazon Transcribe flips it, transforming spoken language into written text. The trick here is just linking the service name directly to its primary sensory function. Section 4, Foundation Models and Generative AI. Foundation models, or FMs, are these massive, large-scale neural networks trained on incredibly extensive, broad datasets. Now, they are wildly resource-intensive and expensive to build from scratch, but because they're so general purpose, they are amazingly adaptable. So instead of building a model from absolute zero for one specific task, you use an FM as this incredibly powerful starting point. You adapt it for specialized enterprise applications, whether that's text processing, visual comprehension, or even writing code. On the exam, you'll absolutely need to know how to distinguish between the ways AWS provides access to these models. A classic question differentiator is knowing Amazon Bedrock versus Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart. Bedrock is a fully managed serverless platform offering a unified API to access top foundation models from providers like Anthropic, Meta, and Amazon itself. You don't manage any infrastructure whatsoever. Conversely, SageMaker Jumpstart acts as a machine learning hub. It's the place you go to directly select, deploy, and tune pre-trained open source models, giving you a ton of granular control over the deployment, like running models securely in VPC mode without internet access. Section 5. Responsible AI Guidelines. AWS expects you to know the 8 pillars of responsible AI inside and out. We're talking fairness, explainability, privacy and security, safety, controllability, veracity and robustness, governance, and transparency. Be sure to pay special attention to fairness, which means considering the potential impacts on diverse groups, and explainability, meaning you can provide clear, understandable explanations of a model's predictions to a human being. Speaking of explainability and fairness, you are highly likely to see a tricky setup on the exam testing your knowledge of SageMaker's specific management tools. So how exactly do SageMaker Clarify, SageMaker Debugger, and SageMaker Model Monitor differ? You'll want to remember this distinction very clearly. SageMaker Clarify is uniquely focused on the ethics side of things. It detects bias and provides model explainability to ensure fairness. On the flip side, tools like SageMaker Debugger and Model Monitor focus purely on operational metrics. Debugger analyzes model training in real time to spot computational or systemic issues. Model Monitor tracks metrics post-deployment to make sure the model keeps performing well out in the wild. Bottom line, Clarify is for bias and transparency, Debugger and Monitor are for operational health. Section 6. Security and Compliance. When we're talking about AWS Identity and Access Management, or IAM, in a machine learning context, you really need to understand roles, policies, and groups. Remember, roles are identities that AWS services can assume. Like SageMaker might need a role to be allowed to talk to an S3 bucket to grab some training data. Policies, well, those are the actual JSON documents attached to the roles that dictate the exact rules. What's allowed, what's blocked. And finally, groups are simply collections of users. They streamline access so you can apply one set of permissions to, say, your entire data science team all at once. So, with this clear roadmap of AI boundaries, structured life cycles, and critical guardrails locked in your playbook, you are well equipped to crush the AWS Certified AI Practitioner exam. But as you prepare to actually deploy these incredibly powerful models out into the real world, ask yourself, how are you going to balance the immense disruptive capabilities of generative AI with the profound responsibility to keep it secure, fair, and completely transparent? Good luck out there.